Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of what will hopefully be a monthly series of website takedown sessions. This month is the travel edition. We've been talking about this here at Ratio for, well, it feels like donkey's years now, where we will apply the type of techniques we apply with our own clients when we benchmark competitors' sites. We've decided to apply it for today's open webinar for the travel edition. So today we're going to be exploring the user experience of a couple of well-known brands, Contiki, rental cars, and TUI. So a couple of brands that everyone's probably familiar with. So, we're looking forward to this for quite some time and looking forward to taking everyone through today's session. A couple of ground rules. Today's session is going to be recorded, so we'll share this in a couple of days. We want this to be a completely interactive discussion, so I'll introduce you to our two speakers who will be breaking down these three well-known brands on today's session. But if you have any questions you want the team to explore, look at, feel free to drop these into the search function, the little chat bar on your Zoom window, and I'll ask these speakers during today's session. So your hosts for today, joined by two extremely knowledgeable optimization experts, Kaylee Green and Doug Morris. Both have spent an awful lot of time researching these three brands, applying a bunch of our benchmarking criteria, looking at the usability, looking at how they build trust, looking at how they optimize the checkout funnel, looking at various different parts of the experience that ultimately help these successful businesses to drive bookings and revenue to their products. So it leads me to just say, hi, Doug. Hi, Kaylee. Looking forward to today. And we can jump straight into the analysis of this first site. So which we're going to, I think we've all agreed on, we're going to focus on TUI for the first part of today's session.
Hello, Mario. Thank you for that very kind introduction. Yeah, so with these three brands, we're going to be taking a look at some of the site features one by one. So first we'll look at the search functionality and the homepage of each. Then we'll look at the search results and so on and so forth through the funnel. And we'll have some broad observations as well as some more specific, maybe more nitpicky ones. When it comes to the TUI homepage, my first impression is that somehow they've managed to create an awful lot of cognitive overload in terms of the amount of options that they're cramming into a very small space, while simultaneously having a bunch of space and real estate that they're not using very well at all, being the banner below the fold. And because they are using the space so ineffectively, not only have they managed to cram all the search functionality into a very small space, but also these, as you can see, the reasons to live happy with TUI proof points are well below the fold, which is not too helpful for someone who maybe is less familiar with the brand. In terms of the search functionality at the top of the page, there is, I think, some pretty weird stuff happening and some good stuff as well. So one of the things that I do like when you click into the where you've currently got Italy, Mario, and clear the text input there, is that it just does come up with a helpful tip trying to give you some advice on what you can search in there. Although I think this could be more specific probably, because in terms of destinations, in my experimentation, it's only certain types of locations that will take, like cities or countries. So it's a nice idea to give users a prompt, but maybe they could be a bit more explicit about what users should be putting in there. I found that one thing that is consistent on some travel websites is the interdependency between the different fields. So if you click on the list, Mario, the list within the destination field, well, it's an interesting sign that you...
This is live UX happening right now.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
I should put my glasses on. That's my excuse.
What what happens here is that some departure airports only go to certain destinations, and when one of the destinations isn't serviced by that departure airport, it grays it out. But it doesn't really explain why that's happening, which I think it could do. And there's some package holiday or airline websites like Jet2, I think, for example, where they actually just filter the list to only those that are actually available, which I think is maybe a nicer approach personally. And some just a few other things that are a bit strange about the user experience here. If you click out of the list now, Mario, and go to the cruises section, they're making some decisions to constrain the choices that the users can make without really making it clear why. So in the how long field, once you click in there, in the dialog that pops up, when you choose the drop down that currently says no hotel stay, there's only like very specific options about how long you can stay before or after. And I think in general, they could do a better job of explaining why some of these constraints are in place to make it a bit more helpful for users. And the final thing, which I find quite strange, is the green buttons that they have underneath the search functionality, where like amusingly, you may not know that they're buttons until you hover over them and your mouse cursor changes to like indicate you can click a link. And they obviously know that as well, because they put search for free kids places here, i.e. on the right-hand button, they're trying to make it clear to users using words that that's a button. And I think that could be much better executed. Kaylee, did you have any other thoughts around TUI?
I did, yes, thank you. Hi everyone, Kaylee here. So I definitely agree when looking at that search tip. It's can be quite helpful when we're looking at the where to. However, to play devil's advocate a little bit on that one, the flip side of that, if you're having to tell people what they have to do, then is that necessarily like the best intuitive option? Is it designed intuitively enough? Ideally, UX should be able to be intuitive enough that people don't need kind of guidance. But this might have come out of like testing and trying to kind of be more helpful. So there is that balance. But yeah, just to kind of like give a slightly different opinion on that one. Also, when we're kind of thinking about navigation from throughout the site as well, I tended to find that here with TUI that there's a lot packed in there. And I think that's going back to your point, Doug, that when you do land on the homepage, there's so much crammed in here. So there could be an opportunity here for them to really streamline and personalize their experiences a bit more, especially for people coming back to the website, so that you're only kind of presenting people with information that they need or that they want, and you're not kind of throwing the kitchen sink at them. And that's kind of especially prevalent in that navigation at the top there. When you kind of go into the sub navigation, there's just a wealth of options there. So ideally, it would be really good to kind of test streamlining that. And kind of looking through this, and perhaps this is not just for TUI, but when we think about people's intent when they land on a homepage, it's more often than not that they have an intent in mind. They might have a destination in mind, or they might know when they want to go. And so obviously it's great to have the search bar at the top there, but then does the rest of the stuff on that homepage become a bit redundant? And potentially, if you're thinking about people's intent, so for example, if they are returning customers, could this homepage then become more streamlined? But I guess it's in terms of catering to people who do have that intent, versus people who are more on a kind of discovery mission. But I would potentially say that those people are less. So yeah, so really focusing on people's intent. So yeah, I felt that there was a lot going on that page that could potentially be streamlined. Yeah, to add to your thoughts, Doug.
Wonderful, thank you. Shall we pop over to Contiki?
Well,
Let's. So now delving into Contiki, which, as we can kind of already see side by side, there's quite a difference with the way that they're presenting their home pages. Also, you can instantly tell the difference between the brands. So to start off on a positive, let's say, when like looking at Contiki's homepage, landing on it, you kind of get a really good feeling across the brand and kind of like the look and feel. The imagery perhaps suits their target market, but we'll go into that in a bit more in a second. But yes, it's very visual. It's kind of evoking experiences. So I thought that comes across kind of quite instantly, and so getting that brand across as well is nice and visual. But if we go back to the top, when you're landing on this page, the first thing you are presented with is a scrolling carousel, but a consistently automatic scrolling carousel. Now, this can be quite distracting. In this Contiki's instance, they're only kind of flipping between two images as well, and they're going quite quickly. And where it's beneath kind of like the search bar as well, where people want to be using their concentration, then this can kind of get quite frustrating. So things like that you can look at testing in this is if you do want to kind of still evoke that brand and that kind of experience feel, potentially testing a video that only plays once in this place. So that actually you can kind of giving people a flavor of the experience, but you're not distracting them or frustrating them either. Or you can kind of like look at static carousel where people are given, if they want to look through more images, then it's in the user's power to do so. So that's always some like good things to test. And you do kind of like see some interesting results where just playing around with this kind of banner area of the site. So when we kind of like look at this, and if you're not kind of familiar with Contiki, like when you land on this page, their value proposition, I'd say, is quite vague. And actually Contiki are only targeted for 18 to 35-year-olds, having like social experiences with other people from different walks of life or with their friends. But that's not necessarily like really screaming out on this homepage. I think when you scroll down a little bit, there's a little line which does say that it's for 18 to 35-year-olds, but it's very buried. So yeah, where to go, like trips for 18 to 35-year-olds. So they can really look to increase the visibility of that, mixed with the like nice visual branding which they're getting across, but really being specific about who their target audience are, because you don't want people to go all the way through a lovely funnel and to book a holiday to then get to the end and find out you're too old, because no one wants to hear that. So make sure that you are kind of targeting your experiences and really shining out that value proposition early on that homepage. But let's go to the really interesting point on this page, which might be kind of, I just thought it was kind of very interesting way that they've approached the search bar, because it's not conventional, but whether it's targeted at a specific demographic, that would be something interesting to understand if they've thought about that. But from an observer's point of view, if we click into like the where do you want to go to begin with, so already wasn't really expecting this to be based in regions. So first and foremost, it's like, can I not just delve into, I know specifically like where I want to go. I know which country I want to go to. So this might be then made redundant. So it's already a little bit kind of jarring and confusing. But then we've got an apply button in there. But if you click on one, you don't need to press that apply button. So there's a little bit of kind of like jarring UX there. So if you have an apply button there, but it's not necessarily needed, or it's not being used, because you just click on one and then you're going straight back into your search bar. So that is already kind of a little bit disorientating. So if we do click on one, so Mario's keen on Europe, and then you go to the next one. So what do you want to see? Interesting way that that's phrased. That's not normal. So you think that's going to be potentially more about attractions, or places of interest, but this is actually just the country. So my advice potentially here is like, actually, let's just be specific. Maybe they're trying out something different and new, but again, it's not necessarily what you're expecting to see. What's also not initially obvious is that you can choose more than one, and it's not until you start engaging with it that you realize that actually, oh, okay, I could potentially choose more than one. And this is then when that apply button actually does make some sense. But again, it doesn't make sense everywhere. And then when do you want to go? So yep, I know when I want to go. So if we click into there, but it's now just kind of giving me months. So okay, I will click on, say for example, March, because I know I want to go around the 3rd of March. It's not actually kind of giving me a date. So there may be reasons behind this, but the user doesn't know this yet. And perhaps if people do have like clear intent in mind, then this might end up being a little bit frustrating. But can understand actually like this is giving freedom to people who might not necessarily know all the things that they want yet. But yes, I just thought like that the way that this search is presented is very different. But maybe it's targeted at Gen Z and not at me. But I don't know, Doug, if you had any further thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you've made a lot of good points. I kind of felt when I looked at this that I thought still manning the efforts of the Contiki team and trying to imagine why they would have created such functionality like this. What I was thinking is that perhaps it came from some customer insight that actually the travelers that they are attracting actually don't have a very concrete idea of what they should be doing, and that they are looking more for inspiration. And so in terms of the questions that it's asking, I actually kind of like those in that context, but obviously the execution is absolutely terrible. And you've made obviously a lot of good points about the execution. I think for me, with the middle choice, which was, can you deselect or reset? Thanks. Yeah, what do you want to see? I was imagining that would be more like what type of holiday. So they have some categorization around like adventure type of holidays or festival focused holidays or what have you, or even it could be around like the type of attractions that someone wants to see. And I found it like completely unexpected that what I'd want to see would be a country. That was not what I expected. And I also do find it a little bit unintuitive when you do make multiple selections. It's not really clear to me what those multiple selections are doing in conjunction with each other, because obviously they do have some tours that cover more than one country. So if I select Bulgaria and Croatia, does that mean I'll be returning tours that cover both of those countries? And similarly with the date selection, you can choose more than 1 month. And if you were to choose a month next to each other, like December, January, would that mean it's a tour that covers both of those months? And so I think, again, it's a case of like functionality that's not particularly obvious to users as to how it works, which it should be, but at the bare minimum, it should be explained, which it's not. Cool. Perhaps we can hop over to rental cars now.
Okay, so we just reset the screen. Cool. Well, you could tell where I was researching already, so he's remembered me. I'm just delete that.
Lovely. Okay. So there's some things that I quite like around this this homepage, and others that I don't like so much. So I think, again, like there's a lot of wasted space above the fold that could be better utilized. And it's nice that they are starting to bring in some proof points, like you can see flexible rentals, no hidden fees and price match guarantee that start to become visible, but surely they could use that space much better, particularly on mobile. It What I liked as well, just in terms of the ease of usability, is with the interaction between the currency and location options. So in the top, in the header, if you select the English map and instead choose Australia. Oh no, back on the
1 second.
The next one down.
Yeah.
I think that in the currency selector, now if you click the Great British Pounds, that it's adapted the currencies accordingly. That was my impression when I was playing around with that, which makes it a little bit easier for users. And then again, like not fully explaining what they're expecting in terms of the free text input. So this idea of a pickup location, I found from testing that it takes landmarks, airports, districts, and places, but a user may be expecting that it's wanting a specific address instead, which it will not actually return any results for. And I did not like that the driver age between 30 to 65 option that's pre-selected is a bit recessive for me. Those were my main impressions. Kaylee, did you pick up on anything different?
Yeah, definitely. So actually just following on from that driver age between 30 and 65, I thought like just a bit of an enhancement for that is just having a tooltip as to why people are asking that or why they're asking that. Not everyone may understand or know. So just like a very small like optimization tweak that they could make there just to make that a bit more explicit. Yeah, I think when you kind of look at the mobile experience as well, the fact that the search bar mainly takes up the entire screen, so it's the main focal point. I actually think that's obviously really good, keeps people focused. And I like the fact that the search bar remembers your last location chosen. Like when you keep coming back, that it's kind of cookied up in there. Because obviously if people are doing more research and then if they're coming back and they haven't actually decided, then it's great that that's already there. So saves the user having to do a lot more work. Interestingly, like when we do look at mobile, of course, like when you land on it, you've kind of got your cookie banner. It does take up like a large portion of the page. Obviously we know that we have to have these, but there could be more user-friendly ways of being able to do that. Again, when we go and think about like that menu, so on the desktop, as you've mentioned, Doug, it's quite intuitive and it's quite visual. But when you look at that on mobile, it then kind of like switches to not being very intuitive. So if we scroll right to the top, we've obviously got our hamburger menu, which is great. But if we click on that, we've got those three things which are called out in the header on desktop. But I found it like it's not necessarily obvious that you can now click into these and change them. It just seems a bit random that you have kind of like three things selected there. So potentially might be a little bit disorientating on mobile, and we could look at a mobile optimized menu and start to optimize this a bit more, make them more obvious that actually these are things that you can change, that it is a selector. And to help people a bit better there. But other than that, yeah, I guess kind of in terms of main insights and takeaways, again, we've kind of got search as our main focal point, which is great. Does that mean like the other stuff on this page is redundant, or actually potentially what they could do is make more of that space in terms of like their benefits? And they've got three there, which is good, but potentially there could be like even more which can be done there, because especially then when we look at mobile experiences, we do start to get again another lengthy mobile. But yeah, that's looking at rental cars for the homepage. What we'll do now, so we've gone through like all of like the main starting points of these funnels, is we'll switch back to TUI and we'll now start to look at the next step in these funnels, which is mainly our search results. So we found that again, like with all three of these, that they tend to follow the same pattern. In terms of you've got your homepage, you've got your search, and then we go to our search results. So if we can flip to a search results page on TUI, that'd be awesome. Where are we going to go on holiday?
If you fancy, should we do a tour?
Yeah, I think we need to do like a search result.
Okay, give me a second. So fancy going skiing. Let's have a look. December. No, it doesn't give me the option.
We're the next year, Mario. 2024. You're a bit late for the 2023
Yeah,
season.
unfortunately. Great. Okay, so we've done our search, whether we've used our search bar, we've used the navigation. And obviously we are presented here. So we've only got 3 tours here, which is quite interesting. I mean, normally when we're looking at more sort of broader search results, do tend to kind of like get quite a few back. But so this is interesting to see that actually we've only got 3 results to go through, which makes it nice and easy for the user. What I tended to like about this page and what TUI do well is that, you know, the price is the focal point. Price is obviously going to be like one of the most important things for potential customers. So really calling that out rather than hiding it away, because this is going to really help people make their decision at this point. The fact that there are like on other search results pages that there are like TripAdvisor reviews as well, so to help with kind of like reviews and ratings, and also being able to like really look at kind of destinations as well, so they kind of give some good information. When we actually look at the main cards on the search results page, what I did notice is like the main points when we're looking at, you know, 7 breakfasts, you know, flights included, is quite small and hard to read. So there may be a better way of presenting that and actually like really making these like pop and visual, because again, these are going to be things like which help people make a decision and also are the differentiators between these search results which they're going to get. So it, in terms of like the UX and the information that I, as a potential customer, really want, these are the things I want to be able to see. Also, we noticed that they use the term continue for their CTA. Now, what we also don't have on the search results page, which could also like help enhance the experience and anchor people to knowing where they are in the funnel and what's coming next, is to have like that navigation to show bar to show progress that they're on the search results page, and that by going to continue, that they're then going to find out more information about the place itself. Because continue can seem quite vague. Where am I going? So anchor your users and give them like really clear, specific guidelines on where they're going to go to into the funnel next. So yeah, any other further thoughts, Doug, on kind of TUI search results?
A few. So one thing that is apparent on this page is, I think, some weird choices around the aspect ratio of the images they've chosen. So on the mobile version of the page, if you were to click into the image, although you can see right now, they're very, very small. And on some packages, it's hard to get a very good impression from such a small image around what the experience is going to be like. And obviously, there's a lot of research out there around the impact of high quality images on driving conversions. And so I think that is something that could definitely be improved, although is obviously not the simplest one to fix. I also found continue as a call to action a little bit strange and uncompelling. It didn't really describe what was going to be happening next. It didn't really command my attention as an action I should be taking. On the desktop version of some other search result pages, particularly for package holidays, picking up on your point around price being an important driver, what I found extremely strange is that price is actually one of the most recessive filters. So they have, maybe you, yeah, sure. And maybe just do a search now, Mario. Maybe you go back to the previous page and click search up the top. might get you to the search results I was looking at. And the other thing I found a little bit, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have mixed things up too much. The other,
that December's not popular for beach holidays in Italy. So maybe I'll pick something a little bit nearer good weather.
Fair enough. And perhaps when we see those search results, we might see a couple of other things that are a little bit strange, like the way that TUI talks about date and duration. I find it a little bit hard to get my head around. Like the duration there, they're not being quite clear that it relates to a number of nights, for example. They can spell things out a little bit more clearly. And with the shortlist option, this is often a great opportunity to start driving some registrations and data capture. And I don't like TUI's execution of the shortlist at all, because when you click the love heart, actually nothing happens on this page until the next page load. Whereas what some other companies do that's much more effective is show you that has been added to your shortlist in the header, for argument's sake, and even show some sort of modal inviting you to register to save your shortlist, which would be the point at which we start to get some marketing data capture. Those are the main points that I had. I just wanted to pick up on one question that was asked from the audience around contextual personalization. It's not clear to me that there is any happening, particularly on the homepage. I've gone through quite a few different search results and packages, and the options that are presented in terms of like the more generic tiles or the more specific holidays all seem to be the same, irrespective of my journey, where obviously that could be a great opportunity to start even doing something as simple as changing the imagery to reflect the type of holiday someone is wanting to go on. I would just say also on the TUI search results that they've done quite a good job, although to Kaylee's point, the text is quite small, that if you're on the mobile search results, you can fit like about 1.5 packages within one screen fold. I've looked at some travel company search results where like one package takes up 2 full screen folds. And obviously that is a bit annoying as a user to have to do so much scrolling to get from result to result. But I think maybe we could hop over to Contiki now and look at their search results. Hayley, did you want to jump in here?
Sure, I can do. So we're after using the search bar. When we actually come to the search results page, again, I thought it was great that they're making use of reviews and ratings. So again, like having that kind of social proof, I think that works really well. In terms of like when we're looking at filters, they have kind of those preset filters pulled through from the search bar as well. So that's kind of like making a good use of kind of like follow through of the information as well. You tend to see though that the filter is potentially hidden away at the top of the page. We see the difference there with kind of TUI and Contiki, where TUI actually call out the filters. They're quite prominent on the left-hand side. That's when Contiki, they've hidden it away, but potentially, they've gone with a mobile first design. But it might not necessarily translate to desktop if we're kind of hiding away those filters. But what I did actually like at that top is that you can toggle and view maps. So there's a view maps toggle, which I think is like quite a nice touch, because you can then kind of see all the maps together at once, and then you can kind of go back to the more inspirational view as well. So I did think that that was like quite nice way of approaching that. But again, there's kind of like a lot of busy stuff going on here, and so there's like lots of lovely imagery, but one thing which in comparison to TUI, the price is like a whisper. It is next to kind of a main CTA, but it's not like glaringly obvious like as you land on this page or scroll through this page in terms of the price. So again, they could play around with making that more prominent. And one thing, again, like coming to look at this on some of them, there is a more options available, and it's not necessarily obvious to what that means. So perhaps they could like make a bit better and like calling out like different options for a trip. So if you scroll down, Mary, I think there was one where it said more options. So yeah, more options available. It's kind of a small little tag. You can kind of click on it and then it will kind of throw up another few options, but it's not necessarily obvious what those options might be. So again, they could potentially have a more kind of upfront design in terms of like what those options might be to help people start to make choices. Again, similarly to TUI, like the days and the countries, which are kind of quite key bits of information, kind of small and a little bit hidden. So again, they could potentially make more use of like breathing space. So rather than having like a 4-column on desktop, to kind of like give it more breathing space, potentially like try out a 2-column view, so that actually you can then give more prominence and more like visual to these things like the days and the country and the price. So that could be an interesting thing to optimize and play around with there. Yeah, any further thoughts, Doug, on Contiki?
Just a few. I would firstly like the filter being hidden behind an interaction, or rather the filter options being hidden behind an interaction, I think is very far from best practice. The more friction you put in front of users to do something, the less likely they'll be to do it. And surely using filters to create a more applicable set of search results, or more relevant set of search results, is something we should be encouraging users to do, and will increase conversion rate. So a couple of like incremental things I noticed, I guess you could call it. The add to compare, which I guess is somewhat equivalent to the TUI favoriting option, I quite liked. And you can see with this one, or maybe you can see with this one, a bit of a bug there. Try scrolling down a little bit, Mario. No, okay, how strange. You can see it does actually pop up something at the bottom of the screen showing what you're comparing. And we don't need to go there, but I thought a missed opportunity for Contiki is to get the opportunity to share a link to your shortlist, functionality that I couldn't find. I'm imagining there'd be lots of people who are traveling with friends or family members, and being able to show them the shortlist you created could be a nice way of making their journey a little bit easier. And I actually didn't love the show maps feature. I like the intent behind it, but if you click on show maps, you see that like with the image aspect ratio they've chosen, almost none of the maps actually show completely on within the card. And if you click into one of the cards with the the quick view option, Mario, sorry. Even on this one, well, yeah, the map that you see in the quick view is different to the one in the card that you couldn't see completely. And even though there's a what do you call it, down the bottom left, there's a smaller version in the gallery, you can't actually see the full version of the map that was shown in the search results, which I do find a little bit strange. But other than that, I would echo many of the points that Kaylee made.
Great. And yeah, I think someone's mentioned in the chat that cards need more definition and separation. So yeah, I would tend to agree with that. It seems a little bit kind of like packed in at the moment, and visually it's kind of like quite a lot on the senses. So if they can kind of give it a little bit more breathing space, and people will be able to potentially like compare better as well. And yeah, you'll be able to kind of play around with the design a bit more as well. So yeah, I would agree with that. Cool. So should we hop over to rental cars then? Look at their search results.
Let's do it. I would offer a few short comments first. Let's go with that. Search Mario, it looks brilliant. Perfect. Perfect for our needs. So I just, on this intermediary screen, I quite like this. Rather than taking ages to show your set of search results, they've leveraged that opportunity to make you think. I'm sure it is a little bit of subtle manipulation, but make you think that the reason it's taking so long is because they're finding you the best deals. That's a nice touch to me for any sort of website that's aggregating information from other data providers. In comparison to definitely to Contiki, I love with rental cars the fact that they put you so much in control. All of the filters and sort by options are available without any interaction being needed to reveal them. I think that is brilliant. And in any experiments that I've conducted, as I kind of intimated, the more you get users to filter, the more likely they are to find a relevant result and convert. I don't like a couple of things about this page. So one is with the, if you can pause on a search result. Okay, depending on what your search are, sometimes it shows a distance, and it's not particularly clear what it's showing a distance from with the search result. I think because you've chosen actually the airport as your search query, it's just it's not doing that for you. But on other search terms, it shows you a distance, and it says like distance from center or something, and it's not clear, is that the distance from the location I chose to the car you're recommending, or is it like from the center of the city that I've selected, etc. And I think one enhancement they could make could be to within the map, if you click on the show on map, it's nice to be able to see on this map where the locations are. But one thing, for example, that Booking.com does that I really quite like is to represent the filter options within the map. So then it becomes, rather than just like a place where you can check stuff, it becomes really interactive, and you can make different choices as far as the price range or the type of car you're looking for, and see what effect that has in terms of where things are available. And I think it's a little bit clunky now, although it's a nice idea, to have to go around and like hover on each map pin in order to find a car price that might be relevant to you. What did you think about this one, Kaylee?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a lot of good on this page, I would say. The way that they presented it, like best practices, like they've got a prominent price, you've got the fact of like free cancellation next to your CTA. That's definitely going to help alleviate anxiety at a very key point in like capturing people's into a funnel. So the way that they position that, I think, is really good. The fact, again, they've got like ratings and reviews coming in here. One other really nice touch which I liked with this is like when you do choose an option and you come back, what it's done, it's applied a viewed tag. So that if you're going back and forth between your search options, it's really good at orientating the fact that you've already viewed that particular car. So if you now kind of go back, it should have applied a viewed tag. See, there you go at the top where it says next to top pick. So now you can see that you've already looked at that one. And I thought that was really good user experience. When thinking about like the filters, so was to counteract, I guess, something which you mentioned, Doug. So of course, if you've kind of got like lots of filters, you can get very specific, but you can also get very overwhelmed. There's a lot of choice there, and potentially some things which they can look to optimize and test, which I've done previously in the past, is you can, through data, start to understand what are the ones that most people interact with. And then you can make those the most prominent at the top, and then you can potentially collapse the others into accordions. You can then take that a step further. So if you've kind of got returning customers and they've already interacted with the filters, can we make it more personal to them? So actually the ones which they've interacted with most goes to the top, and then we can kind of like hide some of the others. So there's definitely like a series of tests which you can run just on filters. And I think that, there potentially could be a good opportunity for them here to do that. And what I also liked is like, again, at the top, you've kind of got like some nice iconography, if you want to be like a bit more specific in terms of like filtering out some of the options. I thought that was nice. And I like the fact that you can still edit your search here at the top. But yeah, I think the main kind of like potential pain point here would be around filters. So I would recommend like honing in on that on this page. But yes, so I think that's kind of like shown a good difference between potentially like what we saw from Contiki in terms of how they're approaching it. That's great. So I think we're ready to head back. We're heading through the funnel now on all three. And I guess just why we're pausing there, like if people do have any thoughts or questions as we're kind of going through this, then please make use of the chat and we can kind of like jump in as we go and like answer anything for you there. But yeah, so I guess like we'll move on from search results and we'll move down the funnel with TUI, so we will continue.
Wonderful. I think perhaps we might need to leave the product detail page as the last part of the funnel that we're touching, because we are close to the amount of time that we've allocated in people's calendars. So thank you for sticking with us, everyone. Okay, so on the TUI product detail pages, there are a lot of minorish points that I would make. On the mobile, like if you start scrolling a little bit first, Mario, and scroll even further, I'm sorry, you'll see that they have made some effort to help the user get through what can be quite a long page with a sticky navigation. But actually on mobile, that isn't present, despite the fact that arguably it's mobile devices where page length is the biggest pain point. And I thought, to me, that was quite a strange design decision not to make some effort to include those quick links. Even on some other websites where we've experimented with a similar feature, it can be effective to have not all of the quick links presented, but just the one the user's currently on, give them the opportunity to tab left and right between them. And so, yeah, that was a strange design decision to me up front. A few things, other things I like on the map just there. I like that they're calling out some of the features and attractions that are in the vicinity of that particular holiday. And even if you click on one, it'll give you, I think that's going to be the hotel, but if you click on the other ones, it'll give you some information about the attraction, which I quite like in terms of like exploring what's in the vicinity, making sure that there'll be some fun stuff to do that will make your family happy with the holiday, etc. And another thing I quite like is up the top of the page, they have at the very top, they have a few quick facts about the hotel, just to quickly summarize what they think are the nicest things about that attraction. So close to the beach, bars and eateries, lots of activities, and they are quite distinct from package to package, which I enjoyed. A couple of things I didn't like about the page are, or perhaps the main one actually, would be something a bit strange relating to what TUI have. It's called a TUI rep. Maybe you do a Control F and type in rep, Mario, to find the right spot on the page. So I'm not going to be able to direct you there. And keep scrolling a bit further. Or okay, well, I don't know where it's going to be on this page, but they have this idea of a TUI rep. Like apparently, it's trying to make you feel a bit more like comfortable with booking this to you random hotel. They say they'll always be available on like via digital channels essentially, and at some holidays they actually have a person that comes to visit. But what theoretically could be like could help to allay people's anxiety, I think is if we could see it, quite poorly executed, because it doesn't really explain what the TUI rep does or why you would want them to visit your hotel. And it's a little bit strange, and I think they could think that through a little bit better. Kaylee, I don't know what you thought about this product detail page.
Yeah, I think I did quite like the social proof messaging, but you have to kind of play those types of things a bit safe. So we've got kind of like those urgency messages there. So you've got obviously 25 plus others have looked at this hotel. So obviously you're trying to be encouraging that, you know, people are looking at this or that it's getting booked up. But you really have to balance that between, you know, it being social proof or creating anxiety. And also I would definitely say, make sure that it's true, and that it's not kind of like that dark UX. So if you are going to to want to use this type of tactic, then make sure that it is actually true. And so you can keep your credibility and you're not going to make your potential customers all anxious. I do like the use of the sticky CTA on this page as well. So when you're scrolling, it sticks to the top. And then also when you scroll past like the hotel dates and prices as well, that then also sticks to the top as well, which I thought was a really nice kind of design decision there to help anchor you. In terms of like the bad, I would agree with Doug that actually this is like really long and that the sections could be better designed so that they're sectioned up, because it seems to bleed into each other and that the information is just kind of bleeding on this kind of really long page, so that there are potentially ways that this could be designed better to be chunked up to make it more digestible for people as well. And then, yeah, interestingly, you know, if we kind of like scroll back up, sorry. You've got more things like about the hotel, which is the first thing where, you know, is that the most important piece of content on the page? You could potentially play around with the hierarchy of this. So actually, you know, you go in, you delve into things like the dates and the prices first, or do you put the location first? Do you put your rooms first? Is this in the right order? So there can be a series of tests there where you look at like content hierarchy for product pages specifically, where that works really well, because also then you would have things such as recommendations, where it's best for them to sit on the page. Do we need recommendations on our holiday product pages? Do we just want to focus people? So again, some areas where potentially TUI could look to test and improve and find the best experience for potential customers. So I think we're heading to over to Contiki again. That's the order. And we can have a little look at some of the way that they've done product pages. So with this one, this is obviously again quite different to the traditional presentation of product pages, but again, this might be their brand and it might be their personality that they're trying to get through from this. But I'll start with some good again. So I think, like, you know, nice use of imagery again brings destinations to life. You know, and you really want to kind of be inspiring people on this page. So that's a nice use of imagery. Also, again, when scrolling, they've made good use of like that sticky CTA as well. So it sticks to the top as you're kind of scrolling. So again, really good for anchoring. And also, I think what was good here is that they always have the price next to it as well. So that's going to help anchor. But if we scroll back to the top, let's kind of like dig into some of the things which are I find a little bit confusing about this page. The fact that we've kind of got, or the way that they've done it is you've got the trip, dates and pricing and reviews in different sections. So they're not all on the same page. You're kind of like toggling between them. So that could potentially like be a little bit jarring because you've got to keep going back. If you're then in your dates and pricing, you have to go back and look at the trip again, then go back to dates and pricing. So it could potentially create a lot of back and forth, which could disorientate people and frustrate people. So there might be a better way of actually joining these pieces of information together. There's a big net zero like information. If you just scroll down a little bit, you see this big green thing. This isn't a really prominent area on the page, so you know it's really admirable that that's what they're doing, but is this the best area on the page to have it when it's like prime position, like right at the top of the page? I found like, so there are some benefits on this page, and I think it's always really good practice to like call out benefits on a product page, but they're kind of buried. So for example, one of their benefits is that you can pay over time, which is great. You know, if you're having an expensive trip of like £2,000, then, you know, the benefit is that you can pay over time, that it's only a small deposit. So these kind of benefits are quite buried on this page, and I think they could really make that a lot more prominent. I'm not a big fan of like having like loads and loads of FAQs at this point in the journey, which takes up a lot of like space at the bottom of the page. Is that necessary? Like potentially they could live somewhere else. But again, it's then making this page really, really long. And it could be like distracting people as well. And I think for me, like one of the main points is that it's not really obvious what the main CTA is here. We've got request more info, we've got view dates, like request more info. Why do I need to do that? Is that going to kind of like take me out the funnel? But I mean, if we go through to view dates, we're now obviously in that dates and pricing section. Again, it's not intuitive. Like, what do I need to do next? Where am I going? So if we do open out like one of those dates, for example, if you click on one of those dates, right, okay, there's now a CTA with the price next to the dates. This is potentially like being overcomplicated, and they could potentially just take this and put that on the page previously and have them opened out, so that actually we're kind of giving people a clear intent on what you need to do next, what you need to choose. Because at the moment it's like flip-flopping around quite a bit, and I'm not sure where I'm going, where I need to find the best information. So again, there could be like some really cool tests which they could do to simplify this journey a lot more. I don't know if you agreed, Doug.
Yes, I wanted to have a nervous breakdown when I saw this page for the first time, to be honest, with the amount of information that's all over the place and different things to click. And especially on mobile, it's just a clutter fiesta. I also don't really see, as you just picking up where you left off there, the value in having a continue call to action hidden behind the accordion, because like you already know what the trip start and end date is from the information directly above it. And there is actually no additional value added or information that you need that's within that accordion. I think I just pick up on one or two other things outside of what you said. I found the reviews an interesting one. We can go to the reviews tab, Mario, yeah. So like obviously reviews are great, but if you can scroll down a little bit, just a couple of things about these. One, that some of the reviews are called out as a trusted customer, and it's not really explained what that means. I would guess, having had a fair bit of experience with the reviews, that this is like a verified purchaser, as opposed to someone who's just left a random review for Contiki online and may or may not have actually gone on this trip. But I think that could be better explained or better worded. And if you scroll through the reviews, okay, well, depending on your screen size, sometimes for me at least, the sticky bar up the top with the trip dates and pricing and reviews went missing. And so scroll a bit. Okay, interesting. The functionality has worked differently on my devices. It was a bit hard to understand how to get back to the other tabs. I think those are the main things to say, and we're probably at time now, actually, as well. So thank you very much for your participation in this webinar today, everyone. And we hope you were able to pick up on some insights that you can take back and apply to your own websites.
And feel free, we'll be planning to host a new session, probably not in December, probably in January. And if there's any specific websites you'd like us to review on the next session, send us an email, let us know, and we will include those for the next Travel Edition website takedown. So thank you very much for joining us for the first episode, and hopefully to see you again in the new year. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.